Olivia Rodrigo said, "Bring the tissues." Hey guys, it's Avery from A Very Avid Reader, and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited because today's video was something kind of new, something fun. So today I'm going to be recommending a book for each song off of Olivia Rodrigo's new album, Sour. So like most of the world, I am loving this new album, especially when it came out. I listened to it on repeat and I'm still enjoying it now. So I thought it would be kind of a fun idea if I recommended a book with each song on the album. Most of these books are romances because obviously the album is about heartbreak and about love. So most of them are romance, but they're YA and there's an adult book as well as a classic in there. So there's kind of a fun mix, something for everyone, I think. So some of the books that I'm going to be recommending are pretty loosely based on the songs, while others of them like really kind of stick to the theme. But a lot of the songs, if you've listened to the album, are about heartbreak. So some of them are based on the overall theme or even just the title of the song, while others of them actually kind of deal with that particular topic. But yeah, if you are a fan of the album and you like to read, then I think that you will enjoy this video. So let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments, or if there's any other books that you think go with some of the songs on the album. Anyway, I'm very excited to begin, so let's get started. So the first song on the album is Brutal, and this song is just about how hard it is growing up as a teenager and stuff like that. And it's basically just about growing up and dealing with a bunch of the crap that comes with that. So the book I chose for this song is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This book is probably one of my favorites. I've only read it once and it was a long time ago, but I remember just really liking it. And it is basically the origin story of the Queen of Hearts. So it follows this girl, Catherine, who really just wants to be a baker, but the King of Wonderland wants to marry her, and she is not about that. And she goes to a ball, and she is supposed to accept the hand of the king, but instead she meets Jest. And Jest is like the court joker, and the two meet, they fall in love, and stuff goes down. I chose this one for Brutal because pretty much the storyline is very brutal, and it's obviously the origin story for a very evil character, and their romance is just so heartbreaking, and there were a lot of tears at the end when I read this book. It's a super great romance and fun for anyone who likes Alice in Wonderland. It kind of brings you back into that world, so that is my pick for Brutal. The next song on the album is Traitor, and this song is really good. It's basically about this guy who moves on from her after like 2 weeks after they break up, and moves on is already with another girl, and she's basically like, "You're a traitor and you suck." So this is definitely one of the most sad, heart-wrenching songs on the album, and it really just has to do with someone moving on way faster than you after you guys end your relationship, and how it kind of feels like they're a traitor because of that. So the book that I chose for this song is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. So I don't want to go too much into why I chose this song because I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read it. But I thought of this song because of the relationship between Marianne and a certain gentleman in the book. So if you've read it, then you know who I'm talking about and you know kind of exactly how this song applies. But if you don't, then that's something for you to see. But I love this book. It follows two sisters, Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood, as they try to navigate love and the Regency era and marrying for love, but also needing to get married to provide for their family. It's a great tale about their loves, but also about the sisters' relationship, and I love this book. I think it's amazing, and a certain character definitely is a traitor. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. The next song is the most famous and loved song, Driver's License. And the book that I chose for this one is very loosely based off of just the title of the song, and that is If I Stay by Gail Forman. So this is a really popular book and movie, especially a few years ago. So this isn't a spoiler, but this follows Mia, who gets into a car accident and basically her whole family dies and she's having to decide if she wants to stay and like continue to live on Earth or to go be with her family in the afterlife. So basically she's walking around outside of her body while she's in the hospital, and she is trying to decide if she wants to stay. A lot of it has to do with her boyfriend named Adam, and it tells about their love story, and you know, she's really trying to decide if she wants to stay for him or if she wants to just go and be with her family. And it's a really good, heartbreaking book. I chose it for driver's license because the person driving the car that crashed into them probably shouldn't have had a driver's license. So overall, it's a love story, there's a car crash, driver's license. The next song on the album is One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, and this is one of my favorites on the album. I love this song. I think it's so pretty. Also, I'm a big Swiftie, and she sampled Taylor Swift's New Year's Day for this song. The piano chords is from Taylor Swift's New Year's Day. So I just love this song. I think it's so pretty, and it's the best. So the book I chose for this song is Just One Day by Gail Forman. So this is the same author of If I Stay, and they just happen to be right next to each other in the list of songs. So this book follows an American girl named Lulu who is in England, and she's very shy and kind of reserved. But while she's there, she meets the Welsh actor Willem, who is acting in Twelfth Night that she goes to see, and they basically spend just one day together. They also spend one night together, and when Lulu wakes up, Willem is gone and she's unable to find him. The story follows kind of the next year in her life and her trying to deal with the fact that he, left, and trying to figure out what that means, and did he do it on purpose or were they just separated? She basically just uses this experience and she kind of decides to start living a more exciting life and just kind of breaks away from the confines of how she's been living. So it has a good romance in it, but it's also kind of a coming of age story about herself. So I chose this for One Step Forward, Three Steps Back because they take this one step forward by meeting and spending this time together, and then she wakes up and he's gone. So it basically just kind of sends her 3 steps back. She kind of is reeling from this whole situation and trying to figure it out. So it's a great book. It's super fun. It takes place in London and Paris and some other places. So it's a super fun read, and I thought it would go great with this song. One of my favorites on the album. I love this song. The next song on the album is Deja Vu. The book that I chose to go with this song is very loosely based on just the title as well, and that is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. I've talked about this series briefly on my channel, but I love this series. It's a series of 3 books, and actually I think she recently released a 4th one. And so this story follows Mara Dyer, and she wakes up with no memory of an accident that kills, I think, 2 or 3 of her friends, including her best friend. So in order to kind of escape everything that happened in this crazy accident, her family moves to another state, and she starts at school where she meets the mysterious and British Noah. So the two begin to fall in love while Mara is kind of still dealing with what happened to her and trying to figure out what happened. And it's super fun. It's kind of like a supernatural type of book. Weird stuff happens. I remember reading it and just being like, what is going on? And just being so interested in what's happening with Mara. And she gets these flashbacks, and that's kind of where I get like the deja vu from, is she is trying to remember and she is having these weird flashbacks. I remember, I think I read them in like middle school, and I was just obsessed with the boy in this book, Noah. I thought he was perfect, and I read this series with a friend of mine, and we would just constantly talk about how perfect Noah was. So it's kind of funny. I'm sure if I read it now I wouldn't think he was as perfect, but this series is super good, so I would 100% recommend. Okay, the next song on the album is Good For You, and this is probably my second favorite song. I love this song. I love kind of like the pop rock vibes of it. This song is so good. Plus we know like the best line where she goes, like a damn sociopath, like Queen popped off. Love it. So the book that I chose to go with this song is probably a little controversial, but it is Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi. So this book gets a lot of flack for just being like a trash YA romance, which it is, like it definitely is. Especially the first book is super like oh my gosh, the girl is so weak and needs saving, and the boy comes and saves her, and blah, blah, blah. And so I 100% would agree with the notion that it's just kind of a trash YA series, but it's still really good and I really liked it. It's editing Avery here. I also want to emphasize that the whole series is not like that. Juliet eventually becomes like a bad bitch and is awesome. So if the whole book was her just being like weak and the man was like fixing stuff for her, like gross, obviously would not recommend that. Eventually she starts to be like, stop treating me and like this and stop coddling me, whatever. So that's why we stan her. So the whole book is not that way, or else it would definitely not be worth it. Anyway, okay, bye. Originally there was only 3 books in the series, and so that's all that I've read, but a few years later she came out and kind of revisited it, and so I haven't read any of the newer books, so I'm just speaking on the first 3 books. So this book is kind of like a dystopian society, and it follows Juliet, who has a fatal touch, and she is being kept prisoner by the reestablishment, who want to use her as a weapon against their enemies. So it starts off and she's basically being kept prisoner. I don't exactly remember the details of it, but a boy from her past comes and is in this cell with her, and she finds out that she can touch him without killing him, and it's like, oh my gosh, crazy. And it's about them falling in love. The reason I picked this book for this song is because Good For You is kind of about the reestablishment. From Juliet's perspective, she's saying like, good for you, you look happy and healthy, not me, if you ever cared to ask, because they're just keeping her as a prisoner and don't care about her, just using her. That's kind of where I tied the two in. And also the line, like a damn sociopath, applies to one of the main antagonists, Warner, who we learn more about later in later books, and let me just tell you, the romances in this book are just not what you think that they will be. They kind of twist and turn, and it's really good. I remember liking it. The other thing is that they are super, super fast reads, like very fast, because she has this interesting way of writing where she like has words that she has crossed out because she's trying to show you like her thoughts, and she crosses out the words, and it's interesting. It's a super, super easy read. Like you could probably read this whole book in one day. So that is my pick for Good For You. The next song on the album is Enough For You. So this song is also very heart-wrenching. It's about just trying your best to be the person that the person you love wants to be with, and you know, in the end it's sometimes not enough, but there will be someone for you who does think that you're enough and all that cute stuff. So the book that I chose for this song is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. So I chose this book because I feel like this song embodies the exact feelings that Elio feels towards Oliver. You know, he basically falls deeply in love with Oliver, so he tries hard to be enough for him. You know, he just tries everything he can to make Oliver want him. Not to spoil anything at the ending, but I feel like most people know how this ends. But I'm just gonna say sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't enough for somebody. And so Elio is having to deal with that, and I just think that this song really encapsulates their relationship very well. I will say that this book had a very interesting writing style, which was not always my favorite at some times. I thought the actual plot and the story of like the love story was good, but sometimes the stream of thought type way that Aciman writes about Elio was a little much for me, but I also think there was some beautiful writing in it. You will have to be prepared for a lot of angst in this book. That was a lot of it. It was a lot of Elio angst, and at times I was kind of over it. I just felt like he was pining after Oliver too hard. But when that kind of lets up and they actually, you know, begin their romance together, it got a little better for me. So just kind of be aware of that. If that's not your favorite type of writing style, then maybe that's not the book for you. But yeah. The next song is Happier. I think the whole concept of this song is very relatable for probably anyone who has been in a relationship where they have parted pretty amicably. You know, the key line is, I hope you're happy, but not like how you were with me. And then it says, I hope you're happy, but not happier. So this is about breaking up, and you can see that the person you were with is moving on, and you want them to be happy, but you also just like don't want them to be happier than they were with you. So personally, I thought this song was very relatable, and I thought this was something a lot of people probably have felt in their life. So the book that I chose for this is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. So this is another super popular one. I'm sure most people know the premise of this book, but I love this book. This is one of the only books that I was forced to read in high school that I actually enjoyed. So this book is basically about a wealthy man named Jay Gatsby, and he is trying to win back the love of his life, Daisy. But Daisy is married and has a child with another man, so it's basically just about Jay's pining over her and just wanting to be with her. So, Jay tries to do everything he can to make Daisy want to be with him, and it's such a fun book set in the 20s, so it has a really cool vibe. So I definitely think it goes with the happier theme of wanting Daisy to be happy, but he also wants her to be happy with him. He doesn't want her to be happy with this other man and move on. So this one definitely follows the vibe of happier. The next song is Jealousy, Jealousy, and I also really liked this song. I really like the beat of the song and like the melody, but also I think that the message is very relatable for anyone who has social media. So the song is about seeing people, and specifically I think on social media, and just feeling like you want to be them and just being jealous, even though you know that just because other people are doing fun stuff doesn't mean that takes away from your worth at all. But I just feel like this is something pretty much everyone can relate to. So the book that I chose for this is Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. And I just realized that this title is Jealousy, Jealousy, and this one is Everything, Everything, so that's kind of funny. But this book was also really popular, and it has a movie adaptation. So this book follows a 17-year-old girl named Maddie who has a very rare disease where she can't leave her house because it's an immune disease, so she could literally get sick and die if she comes into contact with anything from the outside world, really. So her life is kind of depressing, where she can't leave her house and she only has contact with her mother and her nurse, until one day a family moves in to the house next door and she meets a boy named Ollie. Well, she doesn't really meet him, but they begin a relationship over text and over phone calls. So they begin to fall in love, but they have to deal with the fact that she, can't meet him in person. So the story basically just follows their romance and dealing with them trying to be together but not really being able to be together, and it's really good. I really loved this book. I chose it for Jealousy, Jealousy because she obviously is probably very jealous of everyone who can live a life. She constantly is dealing with the fact that she won't be able to live a normal life, and she tells Ollie, she's like, you can actually be with someone that you can be with physically, and it's just hard for her. And yeah, it's a crazy book. It has a really crazy ending. That is my pick for Jealousy, Jealousy. Okay, so the next song and my favorite song on the album is Favorite Crime. I love this song. I think it is so beautiful. The harmonies during the chorus are just unparalleled. This song is so pretty. It is 100% my favorite on the album. I love this song. So the book that I chose for this is also very loosely based on the title, and I chose Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I feel like most people have heard of this book. It's been very popular in the last year. So this book follows a girl named Alex who has kind of a shady past, and she gets a full ride scholarship to Yale. The reason she gets to go is because she is special, and she gets tasked with monitoring the Yale secret societies, who are these weird culty societies who kind of deal in magic and all sorts of shady dealings. So she's basically in charge of keeping them reined in and making sure they don't do crazy stuff. But near campus, there is a murder of a girl, and she has to do some investigating to figure out what happened to her and if any of these societies had anything to do with it. So that's kind of where the favorite crime aspect comes in, is that there's this crime that she's trying to figure out what happened. And her mentor, named Darlington, is this boy who's a few years older than her. He has gone mysteriously missing. So you're kind of trying to figure out what happened to him and figure out the relationship between those two. So this is a really good book. So this book is very good, but it is an adult book, so I do want to give a trigger warning. It does have some themes of sexual assault. So I just want everyone to be aware that that is in this book, and I wasn't expecting it. It's not something that you can really tell from the synopsis on the inside jacket. So if that is something that, would trigger you, that you don't want to read about, then maybe bypass this book. It's not a huge theme, but it is there, and there are moments of it. So yeah, I really liked this book. I read it a few months ago, and I'm excited for the second book to come out. I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but It's gonna be good, and that is my pick for favorite crime. Okay, so the last song is Hope You're Okay. Basically where Olivia is reflecting on some people that she's met in her life, and even though she's not in contact with them now, she knows that they've had to deal with some hard things, and she's basically just saying like, I hope that you're okay. The book that I chose for this song is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. So this book follows a girl named Violet and a boy named Finch, and Violet is dealing with the death of her sister, and Finch is kind of an outsider, and they get tasked with completing a school assignment together. So it deals with their relationship and them really turning to each other to deal with their problems, and Finch is really struggling with his mental health. The book follows their relationship, and it's very heartbreaking. I remember I cried a lot at the end, but I really loved this book. It was so beautiful. But another trigger warning for this one deals with suicide, so if that's something that, you don't want to read about, then maybe skip this book. But the reason I chose it for Hope You're Okay is I just thought that I could see Violet kind of singing the song Hope You're Okay from her perspective, and hoping that Finch is okay, as well as her sister, and just kind of saying that you'll be there for people who need help and are struggling with mental illness. So that's why I thought those two would go together. Okay, so those are all my book recommendations for each song on Sour. I hope that you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments what your favorite Sour songs are. So like I said, I would say my first one is Favorite Crime, and my second one is Good For You. I love both of those songs. They are so good. So definitely let me know in the comments what your favorites are, as well as if you've read any of these books. Also let me know if you have any books that you think would go with any of the songs, because I would love to hear about that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure and give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Go stream Sour.